everybody. Welcome to the Light Gate. We have a really good show for everyone tonight. Martin Rivera is here with us tonight, and we're very excited about it. He has a lot to tell us. And we are coming to you from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. I hope you all have a good night. Buckle up. This is a good one. Go, Preston.
Thanks, Dolly. Thank you all for joining us tonight. You're watching The Light Gate. I'm your host, Preston Dennett, and my lovely co-host is Dolly Saffron. There. And as Dolly says, we have a wonderful guest. This is our first repeat guest. But before I get to his bio, I just want to say a quick hi to all of you in chat, because I'm really honored that you guys joined us tonight. Hello, Doxy and Nancy. This reminds me, someone actually mentioned it, reminds me of Romper Room, remember, with the magic mirror? I see Ruth Kleiber and Louise. And thank you, Janice, for the super chat. And thank you, let's see, who else do we have here? Raul, truly appreciate that. Let's see, Penny. Thank you, Penny, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Namaste, for the wonderful donation. I'm now eligible for super chats. It's a great way to support the show, so I really want to thank you all. Terry, thank you so much. It's really awesome that you guys are being so generous. Oh, Doxy, thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, there's Michael Kennedy. Yay. Brian. Hello, Brian, and Nautical Strings. Lots of familiar names. Star Orchid says, hello from Montreal. Oh, very cool. We're getting an international audience, Dolly. That's awesome.
I know, very cool.
Very cool, very cool. Oh, there's Real Badger and Renee Cruz. And let's see, who else? Lockbeard, Angie. We've got a nice audience today. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I think we're going to have a really cool show. Martin was on before. And let me just tell you a little bit about him for those of you who weren't able to see the last show. We are welcoming back Martin Rivera, UFO researcher, experiencer, and quantum hypnotherapist. Of course, quantum hypnotherapy is a technique first developed by Dolores Cannon. And if you've been in this field for any length of time, you know who Dolores is. She wrote The Custodians and a number of other really awesome books, which still are on the bestseller list often on Amazon, even though they were published many years ago, which speaks to how influential she truly has been. And Martin, of course, has been studying the subject of UFOs and ETs for many years, and uses the technique of quantum hypnotherapy to help experiencers remember and process their otherworldly encounters. And he is, in fact, certified in quantum healing, hypnosis, and past lives at the Dolores Cannon Academy in Arkansas, and is actually the co-founder of Quantum Balance, a healing arts center with transformational programs based on Long Island. That's in New York. Now, Martin does do past life regression therapy, and sometimes that turns out to be a future life. Also does sound and light healing, emotional healing therapy, pineal gland activation, connecting with your higher self, meeting your spirit guides, accessing your Akashic Records, Reiki healing, and all kinds of really wonderful stuff that the world needs so much these days. He is fluent in Spanish and has translated several books into Spanish, including Dolores Cannons, The Custodians, and Keepers of the Garden, and many others. And in fact, he went on with me on a show in Mexico with, Johannin. I forget his last name, but it's a popular show in Mexico, and did all the translating, which was so much fun. Because every now and then I could actually understand a word here and there. It was all kinds of fun. So thank you, Martin, for that. Martin has worked with many people, authors and experiencers, aiding them in their journal of spiritual discovery. And as he says in his own words, I help you to connect with your higher self for the healing of mind, body, and spirit. So many people do recall past lives, reaching all the way back to ancient times, such as Atlantis or Lemuria. And of course, not only human past lives, but ET past lives, which I suspect many of us have, especially you guys who are listening, being interested in things like this. He also helps people recall ET encounters with amnesia and missing time, which often happens when we are young children. So there's many, many uses for quantum hypnotherapists. And of course, he has had some amazing UFO experiences of his own, which we'll probably touch upon, even though we did discuss him a bit in the last episode. But due to high demand and numerous requests, we are bringing Martin back for his second appearance. And he does have some really exciting new stuff to share as well. So it should be all kinds of fun. I will bring him on. There's Martin. Hello.
Martin.
Hello, guys.
How are you?
All right, thank you once more again. To I'm being honored to be, again in your show from both of you. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Well, we did get lots of requests to bring you back, and you're our first repeat guest. So that is really cool. And we're on episode 23 now. So I think we finally got our sea legs. At least I'd like to think so. But we will see. So, one thing I thought we'd just dive into, and I don't mean to blindside you here, but I'm curious on your thoughts about the recent developments with the Mexican government talking about these Peruvian mummies, which date back, 1,000, 3,000 years?
It's a range of between 1,000 and 1,800 years. So
All
they've
right.
done already two studies on in DNA and carbon, dated it back. So, but they're doing more really.
I really wanted to listen to it, but it's all in Spanish. So I don't know if you had a chance to listen to what they were saying or not, but I'm curious about your thoughts on it because, if this pans out is real, honest to God DNA, this could be a game changer in a lot of ways.
Yes, it is. I mean, it was a wonderful, opportunity for the Mexican government, led by Jaime Maussan, who's a big figure down there. He's
Right.
been a renowned, journalist presenting all videos, photographs, and videos, and very few cases where he determines, if they bring a lot of evidence, he present them, and he has such a great team, for to check whether the videos or the photographs, in this case, are the mummies. Well, he's very smart enough to gather a group of doctors and scientists. Even some of them were like from the military from Mexico. So these are like very serious people, and they were doing studies back in 2017. Really, they flew down there to Peru, and they and this that was the first study they done. They even invite. There was a group from here, from the U.S., from Gaia TV, and
Right.
even one of the Russian, very renowned Konstantin Korokov. He has like a lot of technology patents. I mean, he's a big figure, and he went down there with them to study, doing the basic stuff,
Oh, really?
X-rays.
Yeah, I know because he takes a very skeptical, hard science viewpoint.
Yeah, and they came out, with with semi conclusion, because they need time to do more studies, but they say they determined they were real, they were biologicals, and that's how it's going on for the last 6-7 years, really.
Well, that's cool because, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of people making all sorts of comments about this. And if it's science, it's science. You can't say no. I mean, you
Yes,
can have your
yes,
opinion on it, but truth is truth.
it
So,
is.
yeah,
And he even been he's been very open, because he recently posted a video last week. Jaime Maussan saying, like, telling the audience, like, everyone is welcome, scientists, students, for any specialty. They welcome to analyze the mummies too. So there's not like they don't want to keep it hidden. He
Have they
wants to
offered DNA
post it.
from them
He
yet?
wants to, yeah, he invited everyone to study them.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I do hope it gets released to the public because we know our governments have the alien bodies already, which are
Exactly.
current. They're not mummies. They're
Yes.
maybe just 100 or 200 years old.
Yes, and there's such a controversy from the Peruvian government too, because they refuse to examine the bodies and everything. He has been documented all these, neglected from the government, from the Peruvian government, really. And then it's such a campaign to discredit it, because they found another like small figures, like probably like 12 feet, 12 inches, right? And they determine, they analyze those, and they say, oh, these ones are kind of like a toys, because they saw, they were assembled some way or another, but there was like human material in it. But they didn't have, they were like broken bones. They didn't look like a really, like live organism. But then, people from the Peru, they were analyzing them, those dolls, really. And they were saying, oh, all of them, they are the same. So it's like, come on, you only analyze one, and you saying like everyone, all of them are the same when you don't even analyze the other ones. Doesn't make sense. But
Yeah.
that's the campaign that's going on, that this information.
Yeah, that's why it's so hard to move this field forward because people are they're not even willing to examine the evidence.
Exactly, they refuse it.
That's a real problem with scientists. If you just reject it and you're not even willing to examine the evidence,
Exactly,
what's wrong with you?
that's not being science, right?
Right? All right. Well, that's interesting because it is an interesting new development. And, there's been so many years of just absolutely nothing in terms of our government saying one single word.
Nothing.
And
Yeah, that's right.
Mexico has been much more forthcoming. I remember years ago there was a sighting over, I think it was over Mexico, with a plane flying, and there was, I don't know, 7 or 8 objects in the sky.
Yes, yes, almost a dozen. Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
there
that
was
was
a
from
great
the
video.
army.
That was, excuse me.
It was from the army, from the Mexican army.
Right, right. I
So
remember that because the footage was outstanding, and I don't think you could see them with the plain eye, but on the
exactly, that's how they
infrared,
describe it. Yes, yes, they
yeah,
described it. They couldn't see it with the naked eye. They had to use this infrared from the plane to see them, and even they approach. Even some a few of them surround the airplane.
yeah, and they tried to pass it off. Oh, those are oil wells, which made me laugh.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, they're reaching for explanations sometimes. That was
Exactly. Yeah,
and this,
yeah.
I think, is why the Mexican government has been quite a bit more forthcoming. That, and of course, we talked about in the last show we did with you, the 1991 solar eclipse event
Yes,
over
yes, yes.
Mexico City, which
Yeah, we have an eclipse coming up this week, don't we? In about 10 days in the
um,
US. It's
we
going
have one
across.
next year in
No,
April
no,
20,
there's one coming up in
2024.
like a week or two.
I heard of it, but I haven't
Yeah,
looked at it
it's going to
really.
go across the west, like
Okay.
somewhere from Washington all the
Washington.
way down through Arizona to New Mexico.
Oh,
So,
okay. A
It's
solar eclipse?
a total solar eclipse, yes.
wow,
No. Well, I know we have a huge one going across Texas all the way up towards Illinois, and I think it's April 2024.
wow, that's in the
Yeah,
middle of the country.
yeah.
Yeah. If
Awesome.
ever you get a chance to see a solar eclipse, do it. It's
Yeah,
much more dramatic than you think. I've
it's
seen
amazing.
two. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually in Mexico during the 1991 solar eclipse.
Oh,
Not
did
in
you?
Mexico City, unfortunately, because then I
Ah,
would have seen the UFO.
right,
But I
right.
was in La Paz.
La Paz and Baja, that's the
Yeah,
peninsula. Yeah.
most amazing experience ever.
Right. Yes, indeed. Yeah, and let alone too this UFO that were reported and filmed from the government camera that is this station that is surveillance the volcano, right, like nearby Mexico City. It's called the Popocatépetl volcano, and they see this huge. There was one time in, what was that, back in 2000, I believe it was 2012 or 11. This huge, almost like a mile long. It just went right into the volcano when it was like getting to erupt. It was having an activity, and this just like cylinder blast right into the volcano. That wasn't the only time. they've been constantly seeing, UFOs going in, in such a path. They went right into the volcano, or some of them they getting out of it too.
Yeah.
For the last 20 years, really.
I know about Mount Popo. In fact, Josh Gates, the guy who does Expedition X, did a show on that.
Right.
They saw some of the UFOs themselves.
Yes, that's the same one. It's they call it Popo because it's a Nahuatl name. It's hard to pronounce.
Yeah, I'm just going to stick with Popo.
Yeah, Aztecs. Yeah, they don't say Popo, but it's Popocatépetl. I know it's hard, but yeah, that's the full name of the volcano. But yeah, there's been a full activity going on. Even now, they have anyone can log into it. I can't remember what's the website, and they have two different cameras, one from the government and another from Jaime Maussan. He really he invests to keep watching the volcano activity, and they've been picking up every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They have this activity, even UFOs, orbs, all kind of stuff.
Dolly, I'm curious, why would UFOs go diving into a volcano? Is that to study, you think, or to pull energy?
Actually, volcanoes that are erupting and have magma coming up are highly electric. They emit tons and tons of electrical activity. That's why you see orbs and lightning and stuff like that around them. And if they need power, they'll run right up to one and get it while it's active. They'll absorb the energy from it and then move on. So they do watch them. They do watch them from a distance, though, unless they're trying to get electricity from them. And then they'll go for that. So,
all right.
Yeah, October 14th is the eclipse, by the way.
Great.
All right. And the total solar one is April 8th.
Right.
That's the one I absolutely want to see.
Okay.
We'll have to make plans for that. Because who knows? UFOs may show up. You never know.
Yeah.
I know they're not here right now, but I can keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's always present, because I remember watching Jaime Maussan presentations, and during the solar eclipse around the world, and people film them. They're always nearby somehow.
Something's going on. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. So, Martin, tell us, I know we went over some of this already, but for those who haven't heard of you before, can you talk a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in UFOs and quantum hypnotherapy and all of that?
Okay. So I was born in Mexico City, and as I explained before in the first show, I had my own sightings since I was a child. I couldn't understand what I was watching, but later on in life, I was remember it. And then when I was a teenager, even with my family, we were just going to this park nearby where I used to live. I was a teenager, and my whole family saw this big UFO just darted off like zoom, in front of our faces, and we were like just staring at each other, what's going on, And later on, of course, we watched the one we explained about the solar eclipse in Mexico City, which was unbelievable, and millions of people saw, observed that, that UFO that you just put that photograph in the last time. So, and I had other few more later on, of course. Even in my blog, I remember I was telling about this concert from Pat Benatar, one of the rock stars from the 80s.
I remember that.
Right, remember that?
Sure.
Yeah, and then the funny thing was it was a holiday in that day, because it's December 12th in Mexico. They celebrate the Virgin of Guadalupe, which is one of the religious figures around the world, because it's the mother of Jesus. And this shrine that that is in this basilica in Mexico City, so many pilgrims come to pay tribute, to pay a visit, So there's like almost more than 1 million people who gather in that date. So that night, I observed another one, and it wasn't only myself. It was my friends where I used to live. I was like, 17, 18-year-old. We were like 4 of us, just hanging out in the corner of our street. And we saw this UFO. It was like 7:30 already, between 7:38. It was almost dark already. So we saw this, like this side of the UFO, and we could see the lights going around, very slowly. And the UFO just moves very slowly, and then darted off to this to the space. Really, and we just saw this streak of light, leaving behind, and the UFO came back 5 minutes later, doing the same pattern. That was only twice.
Wow.
So that was another one. And of course, in the US, I had a couple more. That's when I went to Arkansas to study, in the Dolores Cannon Academy. We saw these orbs that we always call like probably a little more bigger, of this twice size of the basketball, you know, coming, from above the trees. And it's just one of them. It just sent me a beam of light to my face. Just when
Right.
I was gonna say,
Oh my
I didn't see,
goodness.
before they said the word anything, he just flashed the light right over my head. So we were
That's
like, whoa.
yeah. Wow. I mean,
Yeah,
that's acknowledgement, 100%. Undeniable acknowledgement.
exactly. And we were like seven of us in hanging in there in that house. Just when that was the last day of our graduation, because we rent a house to take the course and everything. And then we just having a good time. I was eating watermelon, actually. It was like kind of like that 7:38, almost the same time. And four of them were just out there smoking. But I was talking to another friend in the house, when one of them just came rushing, like, "Come on, guys, get out of the house. We see these orbs, around the house." I was like, "Oh my god, these guys are just, they're just tripping out." That was my thoughts. But no, sure enough, we saw this one, and the next hour we saw only like three or four at the distance, just hovering, here and there. But yeah, we had that, very close encounter, of course. So
Do you think you've ever been on board? Have you any
uh,
indication of that?
that's a great question. But sure enough, one of my in my sessions, I was having this, we call it the workshop of a future life, right?
Right.
And sure enough, I was in a UFO craft somewhere. I don't know exactly the time, but I sure know I was inside a craft. And I remember just like having been in this console with this like translucent or transparent screen, and had these like holograms popping up, and I was watching my hands moving like this, and interacting with icons and symbols and all that. And then I saw like a window, right? And I saw the earth at the distance. And then the next scene I saw was like I saw these forests and lakes and oceans, something like that, and domes popping out from from the forest. And the
Wow.
next scene I saw was inside one of those domes with many, many other peoples. Well, actually, there were people, there were beings from different races. We were all standing in these like concentric platforms, going like this, like going down in the center.
Right.
And I remember I was hearing them, but nobody was speaking. I was hearing inside my thoughts a dialogue, you know.
Wow.
And I saw different, many of them, they were wearing different outfits, many colors. And I remember wearing one like a tight suit, like kind of like white, and like a dark stripe on my shoulder, like down the arm. That's what I was remember seeing myself like this. Yeah. And the next thing, I was the one speaking because everyone was observing me, but I wasn't speaking with my mouth. I was speaking with my thoughts.
Wow.
And that was one of that's what I exactly saw. So, but there were many beings from many different races.
Amazing. There you go. There's a lot going on in the world. So you learned quantum hypnotherapy. So what drew you to that, and
Yes.
how did you get interested in that?
Oh my God. Yeah. I had my what do you call my existential crisis when I was like a teenager. It was like 11, 12, just about few years before I had this sighting. And I remember watching, Carl Sagan, the TV show Cosmos. You remember that show back into the
Yeah, Carl
80s?
Sagan, billions upon billions of stars. Yeah.
Yes. I remember. Yeah. I remember watching that show. I was 11 years old, and I was like totally like blew my mind. And I start having these, you know, thoughts and question myself and all that. And of course, that drew me. No, not only that, but I had a really rough, childhood with my, my father was like alcoholic, and he works. He was a hard worker, but he was very tough guy. People from back then was really tough. And I remember he was having like, very tough time with those too. And I was, growing up depressed, having reaching 14, 15-year old, wanted to kill myself. I had like suicidal thoughts and all that. Probably like many people went through almost the same stage too. And then sure enough, I was starting getting sick and all that, had gastritis, ulcers, and all sort of things.
Oh,
But then
man.
I would start questioning myself when I was studying psychology, because I don't want to get through pharmaceuticals. Then I started, discovering all these alternative medicine and all that, and different techniques. And then that's how I was starting getting to. I remember, I don't know, can't remember. Somehow I was listening to Brian Weiss interview in Mexico, really, because he was presenting one of his books. That was back into the 90s, and that's how I get into my mind. What do you mean, like we have past lives? So that's how my journey started. And I started, doing research, finding many authors until I found Dolores Cannon. That was in 2010 when she was releasing her book, the Three Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth.
Wow.
When I saw the presentation, I felt like it was talking to me. That's how because back then I was already going to the field. So I was like, I wasn't sure which technique should I study. But when I discovered her, and the information, was coming from, was coming from source or higher self, I was like, that blew my mind. And of course I went through the same. So I had my own sessions, I went to retreats and all that, and it really, I practiced to myself too. So that kind of like opened the way, and that's the way I ended up doing that. Of course I had a background, of course, little by little I had signs, books, talking about past lives and all that. But to make, long story short, that's how I ended up doing, quantum healing hypnosis technique.
Did you ever get to
Wow.
meet Dolores?
That's another story, because I remember she was having a presentation in, I can't remember what was it, in Minnesota or Minneapolis, one of those cities. That
Right.
was in October in 2014. And I was telling my wife, we're gonna, we were like planning, getting the book, the hotel, the flight, and that's when she got the accident. She kind of like she fell off
Oh,
or
no.
something, and then she recovered. Really, she got out of the hospital, but like a month later, she died. You know,
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, that happened. But sure enough, one of my sessions, she sent me a message, and that was a beautiful message, really. So that was like, that was kind of like a confirmation, for me. And sure enough, the message I want to share with you guys, because it was touching for me.
Sure, yeah. That'd
The
be
message
amazing.
was, you know, she's like, because that was one of my guides, or one of our guys. When I later I'm gonna introduce it. His name was Dermilak, and he, during the session, that was with my sister's session. That's how I knew. He goes like, "Well, Dolores Cannon, she's so happy that you learned so well, because she didn't choose you as your student. She chose you as a friend."
Oh,
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 wow.
that's adorable.
that was for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's
I
how
think
it,
I did actually get to meet her very briefly.
did you?
Yeah, she was at a convention I was at. We had, my table was right across from hers. Finally, and it was always crowded, of course. And here I am, kind of sitting by myself. Finally, I got up and I waited in line, and I got to just shake her hand. And I think I got her book, The Custodians,
Custodians.
which is very, very interesting.
I translated that book.
Yeah, yeah. What I liked about her stuff is that she doesn't edit. She just lays it out. This is what happened. This is what
Yes.
she
Yep.
uncovered. And she's not, what I call shoe fitting or cherry picking and pushing an
Exactly.
agenda. She's just
Yes.
reporting it as it is, which is
Yes.
true research. And that's what I
That's
really appreciate.
Yes, that's the technique she develops. We don't really put our beliefs. We just report the way it is, like a raw material. We just put it out there, and that's how I'm gonna share the sessions too.
Cool. Yeah, well, we'll get to those, but can you let people know what is quantum hypnosis? Because there's so many,
Yes,
so much controversy surrounding hypnosis. We had Barbara Lamb
right. I
on,
remember I watched that. Yeah.
yeah, and recently Yvonne Smith,
Yes,
who
Ivan
are
Smith.
both fairly prominent in this field. Well,
Yeah.
very prominent, I should say.
Right.
And
Right.
you yourself are a rising star in this field. So I'm interested in your thoughts on how you can explain hypnosis to people in a way that dispels
Yeah.
all the myths and controversies. Because I
Right.
know it works. I've done my studies of it. Used correctly, it's an excellent tool.
Yes, it is. And it's a way to relax yourself, to access in the part of you eternal being really that knows everything about yourself.
Right.
Now this technique is not about suggestions. Our work is only to relax the person, and source or higher self is the one who's in charge to show you whether those past lives, quote unquote, past lives, things from your subconscious mind, even future lives, or some cases extraterrestrial lives too. So
Right.
yeah, and then and when people comes for the session, we ask them to bring a list of questions, any question that you have from your life that you cannot understand, conflicts, accidents, relationships, anything that you can think of, that why did this happen, why did I had such a rough time with one of my parents or my cousin, and so on. You can bring any questions to the session, and then when you're in that stage, once the procedure is like you're gonna observe first or live really those past lives, and then we call higher self or source, and that's the one who's gonna explain to us like a dialogue, like just what we're doing right now. Why did you show Preston that past life in Europe in 12th century per se? And that's the one who's gonna start explaining. Oh, because he needs to remember this, and that, and then we do the questions. Is there any person from that past life that is in his present life? If it's so, who is it and why? And that's when they start bringing these agreements or contracts between souls for something, for learning experience, for karma, for anything else. That's many variables when source explains it, all these a jigsaw puzzle that we are as a soul. Remember, not as a human, but in the soul level, which is totally different point of view.
Right.
So hypnosis, in a nutshell, is basically just opening a doorway, allowing you to access your true self. Or
Exactly. Yes, the eternal part of ourselves, which is source. Religions have always taught us that God is a third person. It's not. It's us, really.
Right.
We are part of that.
I find the process interesting for a couple of reasons. One is that when you're learning to use your abilities so you connect to your higher self,
Right.
you have to relax. And a lot of people have a really hard time doing that. I mean, a really hard time. They can't focus, and it
Yes.
takes somebody to guide them through to get
Right.
them to that. And what you're literally doing is helping them get there so they do make contact with their higher conscience. And
Exactly.
I think it's awesome. I really do.
Yes. Yeah. Some people struggle, to get under hypnosis because they're very controlling.
Right.
They're very analytical. They have fears. They're kind of skeptical.
Right.
So I developed a protocol, for weeks to teach you. First, I teach you to how to meditate, and
Mhm.
then you're gonna practice for weeks. I'm talking about 7 to 12, 13 weeks of just self-guided meditation, just to get into your inner peace where
oh, I'm so
you
glad you said that.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I
It
always
doesn't happen
recommend.
overnight. Yeah.
Yeah, because people ask me, should I go under hypnosis? I'm like, yeah. But first, what I would ask you to do is write down what you do remember, and second, meditate.
Yes,
Meditate on it. because this
Exactly.
will open doors for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Well, I
so
have a burning question about this then. How many of your clients tell you that they've become more psychic after these
Oh,
sessions?
many of them.
Because in my mind,
really
that's what's happening. You're opening them up and they're using it. And it's like, oh, wow, okay. You know?
One of typical is telepathy, like synchronicities. Sometimes I'm
Yeah.
talking to talking to another client, referring to another case that I had, and sure enough, the guy or the lady or the guy who I was talking to, he texts me or send me something, through an email or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like what, you know. But yeah,
Well, yeah.
it's a door is
It's
open
awesome.
if you continue to meditating. That's one of the recommendations from source or higher self. If you continue meditating, yes, those gifts that are natural from us will
Innate. Yeah.
increase or develop or expand, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
wow,
not
very
that.
cool. Here's Maria. She says, I experienced a quantum hypnotherapy session and experienced the life of an amphibian being. And I was a light form simply existing. It was
See?
wild.
We're gonna go into that part. So yeah, Maria, thank you for the introduction because we're gonna talk
Yeah.
about that.
Very cool. Wow.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I want to explain too, Preston, because that's another insight or another point of view from this type of hypnosis. When I was referring to some people experience once more time, you know, being as another extraterrestrial from another planet, dimension, or even galaxy is for a reason, and the source or higher self show to the person why. That's when we start having this dialogue. I'm gonna give you this. I have three cases I'm gonna share to you guys, so you can
Okay.
understand how is this this dynamic. So
Perfect.
so
The
first
floor is
case.
yours. Okay. Let's
Thank
go.
you.
Bring it
Okay,
on.
all right. First case. All right. This is one of my youngest clients that I had. She was like 19-year-old, and she came for the session because she had a tough time. Like even she had like a half Bell's palsy, which is halfway of the face paralyzed, right?
Yeah.
And her eye was open. Every time she wants to have a cup of water, the water was dripping out of her mouth.
No.
But the thing is, like, she had this like very very struggling to speak her truth. And what was her truth? She wants to come out of the closet. She likes ladies. She likes girls. And
Oh,
of
wow.
course she felt like she was going to be rejected by her family. But that's the thing she was holding for so many years. And she came to the session. We spoke about it and all that. And sure enough, one of the events that she told me that was actually one of the last questions, right? That's my point right here. She told me when she was between 4 and 5 year old, she used to live in this apartment, and her mom talking in bed, and she was ready to go to sleep, and somehow she wasn't falling asleep, but she had a little light on her bedroom, lighting up, very low light,
All
and
right.
somehow she saw this like kind of like dark figure. She thought it was like a ghost, so she pulled the cover over her, because she felt scared, you know so she kind of like closed her eyes, but somehow she didn't hear anything, she didn't feel anything else. So somehow she opened her eyes, and that's where she saw these like cartoonish figures. She saw like three of them dancing on her chest for a few seconds, but the reactions that she had, she told me like, the minute I saw them, it made me laugh because they were like kind of like playing, like
Wow.
between each other. Like she started laughing, she kind of like forgot about the ghost or whatever she was sewing, on her door bedroom, and she started laughing. And when she blinks, they disappear. So that was one of her questions, like, what exactly? So did I imagine myself? Was it my mind playing tricks, or what exactly was right? So
It's a good
here's the
question.
answer. So that's when we have this dialogue with Source. I was like, I had to present everything just the way I explained to you guys. And then Source says, well, those cartoonist figures, I was like, who are they? Is coming from her mind or something? She goes, no, those were real beings. I was like,
Oh,
beings? What kind of beings are you talking about? So, and he goes like, well, these beings are from another place. And like, can you tell me what place are you talking about? He goes like, from Venus. And I was, okay, so what was the whole experience? What did they show to her? And they say, and sort of says, because they want to her to know that she's never alone, that she always in company, and they always taking care of her, and nothing's gonna happen to her, nothing wrong is gonna happen to her. I was like, okay. And I continue my, my questions. Okay, so what is the relationship between these beings from Venus to her? And here's the answer: because she used to belong to that family, to that planet.
hmm.
So she's related to them. And he goes, yes, she's related to them, and they always observing her, and they always learning from her human experience.
Wow.
Okay. And I was okay. My following question. Okay, so okay, her whole issue was about she wants to come out of the class and all that. So Source explained. Okay, she made an agreement with her whole family, her human family, and was like, okay, what is the agreement? She volunteered to teach them a lesson. I was like, what lesson are you referring to? The lesson of tolerance. That's another characteristic from unconditional love from the creator. And they need to learn that lesson, to be tolerant through her experience as we know, as a gay or lesbian.
All
Okay.
right.
Yeah. And then my following question, okay, and what was her other lesson for her? She goes like, she needs to experience, she wants to know what is to forgive and be forgiven. I was like, why does she needs to learn that? I mean, most of us, we assume to go to a process to when someone does something bad to us or wrongdoing, some of us have tough time to forgive them, you know but sure enough, if we have many past lives, I mean, wouldn't be that one of the basic lessons that we experience as a human being? So my question was like, so why does she has to learn this lesson? I mean, how long has she been in the planet? And the answer was like, I blew my mind. And he goes, she has been in the planet only 800 years.
Hmm.
I was
That's
like,
kind of interesting. Yeah. Wow.
I was like, okay. So I was like, so, and here's my skeptical mind, for other people, they might wonder, okay, so here's my other question. I was like, okay, so in case if you want to, meet this other civilization in Venus, right? What if I take a rocket, a spaceship, and I go to land in Venus? Am I expecting to see any buildings or anything like that? They have built on a cities or anything in sources? Not really. I was like, why? Oh, because they vibrating higher, so you're not gonna able to see them, but they are there in another dimension, in another density.
Hmm.
Okay. So I was like, okay, so if she's from this civilization which is higher, why does she has to come to Earth, which is where we are more dense. And he goes like, oh, because she wants to live the experience of Earth, because Earth offers this opportunity to evolve higher too.
Yeah, I believe that. Earth is a tough school. So what's very cool about all of this is that I think when people think of quantum hypnosis or hypnosis in general, they think, well, people are doing it to recall either a past life or an UFO encounter. But no, it's more about yourself and your life
Exactly.
path, even
Yes.
on this planet. So it can be any issue. I mean, it's
Yes.
unlimited.
Yes. It's to understand your life journey. All your issues. Remember, this technique is designed to healing, whether mind patterns, emotional, or even physical, because everything's related. We try to see it like
Right.
separate, but it's not. Everything's related. Let alone our soul history. There's always something that we kind of like working out in this, incarnation. But we all have, that, that background really. So that basically, you go into your own history to understand your present time, and of course, to really fully embrace what exactly you're supposed to be doing. What is your life purpose?
Yeah.
That's the basic questions that we present to, to source. What is Preston life's purpose per se? What is Preston life lesson? So those very, fundamental questions will, bring you back, back into your, your mission in your life, and
Right.
everything flows when you start working on it. Everything flows.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know you had a couple of other cases you wanted to talk about, but I want to bring up this question real quick before I lose it. And this is from Central Wisconsin.
Mhm.
And the question is, since there's reportedly no time on the other side, I think we already mentioned this, meaning
Yes.
when we die, can this type of hypnosis take us forward in
Oh
time
yeah.
and into other future lives we may
Yeah.
have in the future?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a very briefly case too. That was very amazing. It reminds me to a movie that you guys gonna figure it out. And I remember this guy came for the session, and then sure enough, when he was exploring a past life, he was like a tribal chief. That was 12,000 years ago. We are like coming out of the ice age, and he was located between France and Germany, you know. And sure enough, there was like 50 people in the tribe, and he's wearing all these, he has a pierce, and he has this leather, from animals, covered themselves, and they were living next to a cliff, and they had these bonfires all the time in a cave. That's
Right?
what I remember. And sure enough, higher self show him this lifetime. And that lifetime, there was like his actual brother from this lifetime. They were together as well in that lifetime. But then when we move, the person to another lifetime, that's when it happens. And he started telling me like he's inside a rocket in a spacecraft going to Mars, and he was the cargo engineer, and he was so happy. He was like 28 year old, so excited. And we had this dialogue. I was telling like, what are you doing, what's your duty and all that. So he started telling me about why this happening, and the year is 2150 going to Mars. And he told me that they already colonized Mars, and they had these underground cities. And I was like, why you guys moving to Mars? He was like, because in Earth everything is getting very tight. That the resources are depleted, and we're just moving away to like a part of the civilization. And started doing more questions about Mars and all that. But sure enough, from the past, from 12,000 years ago to a couple hundred, 100 years in the future. And that's when I asked, how you said, why do you show him this future life, And he goes like, because he thought that this is his the only one life that he ever had. And no, we want him to show that life continues, and he's very important in his community. Even though he felt like he's not relevant or important, he is. Every time he smiles, because he works in a customer service. Every time he has a customer, and he smiles, and he treats them well and all that, he's making ripples in people's lives. So he's important as well as this engineer, as well as he was a chief on in a tribe. So that's an example. Is that clear?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, there's
having
more.
had astral body experiences, you get a sense, when you go to the other side, that time is not what we think it is. And
No.
certainly I've had, what precognitive dreams and stuff, visions of the future. So
Awesome.
absolutely, this is stuff that,
And you have a book, right, too, Preston?
about out of body experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. I remember watching it. It's awesome, really. So yeah. So there's no dimension. There's no time. Really, everything is happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So
It's fascinating stuff.
All
All
right.
right, so you said you had a couple of other cases you
Yes.
wanted?
Here's the second case, all right, from the ET perspective, right? Okay, the second, this is from a lady. She's, this case, she's actually a dentist. And her case was like she had like this, her hands were sore, the arms, she had like kind of like a pain. And of course, she went, to make tests for arthritis. And all of them, they came out negative. So she had this issue for a couple years already. So she's kind of like, intuitive and she channels really, but she kept it for herself. And then, and actually, she told me she went to South America. She went to Colombia to do this hypnosis with this renowned doctor in down there. He's been, putting a lot of sessions on YouTube as well. But anyway, one of the questions was like, because she had this event, the same. She was like between 5 and 6 year old, right?
All
And
right.
she was living in Colombia, and she had this beautiful garden, and she was playing with herself, and all of a sudden, this she told me she quoted like that: a midget came from the bushes, like almost her size, for between 5 and 6 year old, and then but the way she described it, she had like this kind of like a cone, funny looking hat, but the midget was somehow shimmering, you know.
All right.
So kind of like walked to her, kind of saw her, waved at her, and just turned around and walked away, right? So she was like, I want to know what exactly was this. Almost the same like the other case. Like, was it my
So
imagination?
this was a fully conscious experience that she
Yes,
had.
conscious. Yes, yes. But she was a child. She's like doubting. So
Yeah.
that was one of the encounters. But then when she went to do this hypnosis in South America, during the hypnosis, she's laying, back in this bed and all that, and during the hypnosis, she was able to see like above the room or the wall this gray being like this and looking at her. She
Huh.
was able to see that during the hypnosis. Like she had her eyes closed, but she was somehow this image came to her mind, but somehow that doctor hypnosis technique, you can't really tell because she came back with more questions.
No, no.
And I was like, don't worry, just make the questions. We present it to higher self, and sure enough, so here's the answers from source. And he goes like, okay, the first, what was that midget?
Yeah.
Okay, and he goes like, okay, it was a beam. Okay, it was a beam from where? And he goes like, again, that's a coincidence. I don't know, somehow coincidence. He goes like, he's from Venus. Okay, is that his real form? And he goes like, no, that's not his real form. So can you tell me please what is their physical appearance? And he goes like, well, they have a physical appearance, but they could manifest themselves as they wish. And I go like, are you talking about like shape shifting? He goes, yes, they can shape shift in any way they wanted to. Okay, so my following question goes like, okay, what was the purpose for the experience? Why did he present himself to her? Oh, because he want her to know that she always been, taken care of. That being was assigned to her, and I was like, what is the purpose? So just to keep, just to observe her and just to follow her and observe at the distance, that make sure she is okay during her development as human.
Wow, that seems to be a common answer that comes up in different sessions.
Wow, yeah. And then and sure enough, okay, the next question, because that ties it up this first encounter. Okay, and I go like, okay, what was that gray being that she saw during the hypnosis in South America? And he goes like, no, it wasn't a gray being really. Okay, so what exactly was? Well, that being was slightly different. He goes like, it was like a human form, kind of bluish, different eyes. And I was like, why did she saw like a gray being then? Because and so explain, because on her mind there is not a background to refer to that being, and sometimes the mind trying to fill up those gaps, and that's the way she interpreted it, but it wasn't like that. Okay, so
All
Who
right.
is this blue bean is from Venus as well. I was like, okay.
That is
So
very strange. Huh.
yeah. So I go like, okay, so what is the relationship between these beings from Venus, to her? Same answer, because she used to live in that civilization,
Hmm.
and they always learning through her human experience. They learn everything. Okay, so that's basically her family. He goes, yes, that was her last family in that planet.
All right.
So that's shocking. Isn't
Well,
it that surprise?
it's very, very strange for sure.
It is, yeah. So, but the way I'm telling you guys is like coming from me, from a third person, but the one who experienced it, that it resonates within their whole, from your whole heart and soul and everything. It fills up that kind of misery and fear. It just fades away, and
I
it
think
fills you
yeah,
with
that's the
gratitude.
important part, really,
Yeah.
is if it brings healing,
Oh my
then
God.
it's good.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
very cool. All right. So that was the second one, or was that the third that you?
Oh, the second. Here's
Okay.
a third one. Are you guys ready for the third one? It's gonna be more interesting, I promise. All right, here's a third case. The third case. Oh my God, this is very. I love this case. This young lady, she's probably 20 something. She's 28, and then she was recently graduated from what was 2 years, I guess. She graduates from history bachelor. She loves history, and archaeology and all that, right? And then that was actually her third past life that she was experiencing during the session, right? She was showing two other past lives. Actually, was one in New York City, actually, in 1940s, 1950s. She was a young guy and all that, but he somehow was tied to this, this present life. But anyway, the third life that she saw, the scene start where, every time the person, the first thing that we always ask, what is your surroundings? How do you see yourself? How do you feel your body, young, older, sick, health, and all that? So the first thing that she starts seeing is like, I see these pyramids at the distance, and see like sand, and it's warm. It's a warm planet, so but we never assume. Remember, there's no leading questions until much, much later. And then she goes like, okay, he goes like, I'm picking up, a bunch of sand through my hand, but my hand has 3 fingers.
Hmm. All right.
Well,
There's a
here
clue
we
there.
go. And I was like, here we go. And then sure enough, I was like, how do you see your body? I was like, she goes, okay, I have arms. She's wearing something like kind of like a mask covering her, her face and her body. But the thing is, like, she wasn't able to see legs or feet. She goes like, I'm levitating.
Huh.
She's like, I'm not walking, I'm just levitating. I'm like, okay, so, and then of course she's like, okay, so what are you doing there? That was my question. So what are you doing there? And he goes like, okay, so I'm trying to. I'm a historian. I'm archaeologist, and I'm trying to figure out what happened to this planet, because this is not my planet. I'm exploring the universe and exploring this planet that there used to be a civilization. And somehow that ET that we were talking about, he was able, it has the psych ability to tap into the history right away, because she started telling me, oh, there used to be like a kind of like a human civilization, and they had these cities, they had water, they had resources, resource of every water, minerals, they have vegetation. She started telling more details, and he goes like, but they became very selfish, and they became extinct. They were, he goes like, they were very selfish, and they were able to distribute the resources of the planet, and they're
Oh,
gone. I was like, okay, so I was like, is somehow we experiencing that? He goes like, yes. I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, so my next question was like, so And of course, when she, I was like, I asked her at the beginning, what's behind you? We always ask that question, what's behind you? And sure enough, was like, oh, there's my spacecraft, is my spaceship back there. And she kind of like described it like a typical, elongated, saucer, flying saucer, kind of like that. And sure enough, I was like, okay, so what are you gonna do with this information? And he goes like, okay, I'm gonna present it to my civilization. And I go, okay. So can we go out when you are presenting that, revealing that information? He goes, yes. We go right there, right away. And sure enough, she started describing me like she's in this building, this big hall, and there's like nine beings surrounding her, like they're sitting like a U, or shoe horse kind of like shape. These nine beings, and he is really, because it's a male. He's sitting in the middle, and he's presenting, the data and all that. And that's how she told me like, okay, there's a window in the building, I can see this building, there's kind of there's no vegetation, but it's like kind of like a desert kind of looking environment, and there's some buildings, and she described it the same way. They were wearing the same outfit, all of them, like kind of like a mask or something, like covering the whole body. But
Right.
somehow they just, she told me like they were kind of like sitting, but probably were levitating in air, because they don't have legs. and then he is giving the info, and then I go like, okay, can we know a little more about yourself? And that's how my question go, and I go like, how do you guys reproduce? This is very interesting question, because he goes like, okay, the way we reproduce, he goes like, is like through the mind, through energy. And he started describing, well, actually, she on the session, she goes moving her hands like this. Okay, we think about like a sphere of energy, and then the being start, being solid, like materialized, really.
Huh.
And I go, so, and my question was like, okay, so you guys need like a female and male like we humans do? He goes, no, actually, not really. Like, it's only one being can do that. And I was like, so is the male or is it just the female that they have the ability to reproduce? He goes like, well, mostly, like you guys say, the female, they are able to reproduce. And I go like, so how many times do you guys can you reproduce? He goes like, only once in a lifetime. And I go, okay, so what is your lifespan? Oh, he goes like, oh, almost like 10,000 years compared to to your time of humans. And I
Wow.
go, okay, so how do you guys die? He goes like, okay, we know when we're ready to move on. So we just, we sit down. He goes like, we sit down and we just disappear. And I go, okay, so, and a
It's
following
interesting.
question was
Yeah.
like, so what do you guys eat? He goes like, we don't eat. So how do you sustain yourself? How do you sustain your body? Oh, he goes like, oh, through energy. What kind of energy do you guys use? He goes like, it's the universal energy. That's how he laid it out.
Oh no. Yeah.
And he was like, okay, so can we know a little more about yourself and all that? And when I said this question, he, later when she walked up, she described me that all of them they stand out, they stand out, and they were like kind of excited because I was asking about their civilization and all that. And he goes like, oh well, we don't really want to share that for now because we really we beings that we really reserve to ourselves. I was like, okay, I understand that, but just just curiosity, because we want to learn too. We want to go through this time that we're having a tough time, in our planet. He goes like, yes, we understand that, and we have visited your planet already. I was like, okay. I was like, did you have contact with any human? He was like, no, we never did, and we want to keep it like that. And I was like, do you left any traces or something? He was like, no, we just want to keep ourselves, hidden. Really, we just observe from the distance. And I go like, okay, so do you do any trading, or do you share with all the other civilizations? He goes, yes. He goes like, with few. And I was like, okay, so where are you guys are from? What planet or something? Are you guys in the galaxy? He goes like, no, we're from the what do you guys call the Andromeda galaxy. I was like, okay. And so I was like, so how do you guys, you know, um, can you give us a, like a message or something for us, for humans, for our development? He goes like, well, the way we keep to ourselves and keep evolving because we learn from others' mistakes, from other civilization mistakes. That's how our consciousness influence the universe. That's how you guys benefit from. I was like, okay, because everything is tied together. We all one in the universe.
Well, that's interesting. Well, here's a question from Doxy regarding this. Is this in the future or the past? So she's wondering about this particular case. Did
In
you?
this particular case, it was happening now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because because when I asked, when I asked the source, why did you show her to, this lifetime? He goes like, because, that's how related she is, because she's one of them too as well, living this experience, and everything is happening now, because all this information is helping other races,
Wow. All
and
right.
she's operating without consciousness, without anything, that the client doesn't even know about ETs or this topic about it. So because we had an interview before, before doing the hypnosis, and that's when I hear people's story, all your conflicts and so on, and she wasn't, she was careless about the ET phenomena. She even mentioned about anything, but yeah, that's how it was related, because she was gathering information, and through that
Interesting.
civilization they were observing and learning too.
All right. Well, I have a couple more questions, but we do need to take a quick station identification break. So I want to let everyone know that you're watching The Light Gate. This is episode 23. I'm your host, Preston Dennett, and my lovely co-host is Dolly Saffron. Our guest tonight is Martin Rivera, quantum hypnotherapist, experiencer, UFO researcher, and all-around healer. And you are listening, we are streaming live on United Public Radio Network in New Orleans, 107.7, and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3, on YouTube as well, Facebook, and Roku. So thank you all for joining us tonight. We're having a wonderful time talking with Martin Rivera, and I know he's got some exciting new stuff he wants to share, and we've got some really cool images as well that go along with it. But I do have a few more questions, Martin, if that's all right, because I'm curious about, this is all about healing, this modality, this, quantum hypnosis.
Right.
And I know that people who recall past lives sometimes experience a physical healing or
Yes.
have a phobia that's absolutely abolished. And I'm wondering if you've ever run into that, where someone actually got healed of some sort of physical illness or overcame a phobia, or, how did it heal them specifically? Because this is something that, if
Yeah.
who,
Some of it, yes. When source presented what I'm gonna tell a case. This lady kind of like having this past life in New York City. This like, actually this one that I was telling you. He was a guy in New York City. He actually was born in North Carolina and immigrated to New York City. Somehow in the story, lost a child from an accident and became, very depressed, and he died drowning. Right, he drowned in a river. And somehow in this lifetime, she was afraid of water, even though she was born in a port in a city where it's like, there's water next to it. Never liked the water, and she always was afraid of water. So after the session, when she was presenting what happened, it kind of released that fear that she didn't know where that came from. It was coming from that lifetime. And guess what? Right away, when I remember, she texted me like a week later, like, guess what? I just signed myself to swimming lessons.
Wow. Want to hear something crazy? My last life, absolutely remember it, and I died young. And I dropped out of a heart attack, and the one thing I took from it, it took me a while to come to it, was that I really need to pay attention to what I'm doing, because I was well known and I was wanting to do things, and it got stopped short because I didn't pay attention to what was going on with me. And I've learned that lesson in this life, absolutely learned that lesson, and I pay attention,
Great.
and it's holding me up. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about lessons, and then we repeat. Sometimes some people, they're repeating lessons. Really, and it gets more harder. Really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Phobias are a big clue as to what happened to you in your past life.
Yeah.
Because we see that a lot with past life research.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Another question I'm curious about is, have you ever had, someone go to a past life and been able to verify it, in any way, with actual, like, going to that, here's this person's grave, or there's their name, or any absolute incontrovertible.
Okay, I had two clients. They were both females, and actually one was recording alive in what was it called? Abigail's something, which was in Georgia, Atlanta area, Georgia, some of that state down there. It was in the, I can't remember, was it 1840 something. So somehow she was able to, do the research, because she was the Abigail's in that lifetime, where they
Okay.
had a plantation with, with black people, but it was very different. Than where they were treated as slaves. They were treated as a community, and they were very, they thrived and all that. And she was very happy. And, in that past life, she learned that lesson, to distribute the
Yeah, there were several plantation owners like that in the South, in Atlanta, as a matter of fact.
Say, right,
Yes. Go
yeah.
ahead.
And she looked for it. She never heard about it. And this lady is from, from the Spanish community. She had no background of, of people from America, really, from the US. She's coming from Latin America, so she had no clue about it.
Wow.
And she was looking, she did the research, and she found it.
That's amazing. That's
That.
amazing.
And then, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, okay, go ahead.
No, I mean, that's exactly what the kind of confirmation I was wondering if you've gotten, because, I mean, that when that happens, it's an aha moment. It's more than just, wow, this is great and healing and interesting, but look, here's actual evidence, especially if it's something you wouldn't expect, kind of the opposite of what you would expect.
Exactly. Yes, it's something that, you have no background whatsoever. And somehow, like we was explained before, it heals yourself for something, some of the action we had in the past, it resonates, or somehow it's linked together, or leaks through this lifetime as well, or some of the lessons that we have to go through, in order for us to advance and evolve as a souls.
So you said you had another example of this?
Yes, I had another one. This lady was, she was a singer in Broadway for a brief time, and then she recalled this restaurant. It was like a French name. That's all I can remember. Le Brie, yes, Le Brie restaurant, where she was experiencing this scene where she was having a proposal. She was getting married and all that in that restaurant. And of course, she looked to it. She was, looking for it, and sure enough, she found a restaurant was in Manhattan, in the 1930s, 1940s, and then it got closed, later on. But it exists. She had no idea about this, this,
Wow.
but there was a clue in there. She looked for the actress, because there was a scene where she was singing in Broadway, in a play. And she got this bunch of roses, and she got the ovation from people, the applause, and that was very, very healing for her.
I can imagine. Yeah.
That's right. I know about it. She found that restaurant, really.
Wow.
Do a lot of people?
I knew one of my lifetimes was I was in India. I was Indian,
Okay.
and I remember a song from that lifetime, and I can sing it word for word. Okay, to this day. And I was at my doctor's office about 10 years ago. he's Indian. And I said, I know an Indian song. He said, you do? And he said, how do you know an Indian song? And I said, well, I think it's past life. And he looked at me really funny. And he said, well, sing it to me. So I sang him the song. His jaw hit the ground. He said, oh my God, that's old. And everybody in India knows that song. And he said, my
Wow.
God, how did you? He said, you really remember from childhood? And I said, yes, I remember that life. I know that life. And he was just shocked. He said, I knew it exactly. I said it, I sang it properly, had all the right accents, everything. He said he could believe his eyes. Just like, wow,
Wow.
you know?
As a matter of fact, thank you that you bring that up, Dolly, because I had clients doing hypnosis, exploring a past life, and they start singing a song or whatever, a
Yeah,
phrase in
yeah,
that language.
right.
At the moment I'm like, I don't understand. Can you please translate it for me? And sure enough, they do it right away.
Yeah. Exactly. It blew me up. I remembered it at a very small age. I used to take all my mother's beautiful scarves. She had lots of them, and I stick them in my waistband. I made a sari, and I would dance and sing this song. I was 2 and 3 years old when I did that, and
Wow.
she just watched me like, "My God, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm having a good time. Leave me alone." And she's like, "Okay." But yeah, I never forgot it. To this day, I can recall that lifetime very easily. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Kids are really open to past lives. If you ask
Exactly.
them, they will talk about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we all have this. This is nothing special. There's all
Right.
kinds of pointers to what your past lives are because it influences your behavior, not only phobias, but your interests in
Right.
food and music and
Yes.
clothing and your talents perhaps might point to a past life. If you're
Oh, yeah.
a virtuoso on a piano and you find it all easy, well, if you can pick up any instrument and like
Sure
all
enough.
of this, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And even past, going back to the ET topic, there was a case where it was this lady's nephew. He was like between 3 or 4 year old, and she explained that they were having a breakfast, with her mom, her, the aunts, sisters, and this little kid. And he goes like, I don't know where he starts saying, well, before coming to your family, he was like, I used to live in a dwarf red planet that I got destroyed and split in two. And he goes like, I used to build spacecrafts, and before coming with you guys, I went to China, I went to Canada, went to South America, and decided to land here. He goes, because they used to live in Mexico, and I land here in Mexico with you guys.
Yeah.
And they all were like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was writing stories at a very young age, and my teachers kept circling words. I was spelling them in old English spelling.
wow.
Right. Yeah.
And she's like, what is this? I'm like, I thought this was the way it's spelled. They're like, no,
Yeah.
that's not right. Like, oh, okay. I don't know where that came
Yeah.
from, but maybe a
I,
past life.
I'm
Exactly.
pretty positive that Preston lived on Mars before Mars was, damaged so bad.
I'm going
And
to take my
he's written
spaceship
some
and
science fiction stories, and he let me read them, and it shocked me because
Right.
he's recalling past life. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't doubt
Yeah.
those, recallings and all that, because yes, many, all the time that I present these questions to highest to source, yes, it's a confirmation that they're recalling, that
Well,
past
if they're
life.
speaking a foreign language, I mean, what more do you
Yes.
need?
Right.
Okay, I've got a few questions I'd love to pop up. Here's one from Rad Peanut, and she's asking, I wonder if he's ever met beings with wings. I'm not sure if she means you personally or, you
Mm,
know.
not me personally, but through a session, yes, and that was my case with my sister. Really, she's the one who saw this being, one of the beings, because there were four different ones.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll get to that one just shortly because I've got that picture ready to come up.
I'm not
Awesome.
gonna let you
But
forget.
let me get to
Yeah.
another
Okay.
question here
So,
because this one is kind of interesting as
all
well.
right.
Hi, Martin from Louise. Does the piece of art behind you, which is so beautiful, for those who can't see it, it's interlocking triangles, both
Yes.
heading both directions. So it
Yes. It's
creates
like
this beautiful mandala.
mandala or Siddhi Jantra in the Hindu literature.
So
Yes,
yeah,
the
it
sacred
doesn't have
geometry.
any specific significance. Louise is
Yes.
asking.
Funny thing, sometimes people experience, because I had this device that I use for pineal gland activation or stimulation, and sometimes the singing bowls that I use for my protocol for the first session, to teach you how to meditate and all that,
Tap it. Tap it. There you
All right. We're all getting a healing right now.
So some people recall, that's very typical that they see these geometrical patterns with different colors. Colors, even they're not even in our dimension, or they're like very highly vivid colors. And when I present this question to higher self or source, he goes like, well, those are codes, really. That they somehow either for upgrading your DNA, or having a code access for something,
Wow.
whether going to another dimension, or stimulating your psych abilities too.
That's interesting, because I met this lady in England. Well, I interviewed her. I didn't go to England. I wish I could. But I interviewed her because she had a UFO healing experience. She's an artist.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I'd love to see your stuff. And she was drawing stuff like sacred geometry.
Yes.
And I was just going through it, and I had to stop, and it just made me cry.
Wow.
It kind of raised your vibration. I mean, you just stared into it, and it pulled you into this other dimension. And I just kind of lived in that piece of art for like 20 minutes.
Wow.
And I could feel it doing something
Yeah.
to your consciousness.
Yes.
So
Yes. Sometimes it's not really necessary how does it work, because source explains too. Like you don't really need to know. It's that's what they are for. But sometimes you don't really need to. It's like a computer engineer, when you see like numbers and codes and all that. We don't understand, but somehow it helps to upgrade or bring a new program. A new features. It's almost the same like in our body too.
Yeah.
So
all right. Well, here is another excellent question from Doxy. And I love this question because there's been some research into this by Dr. Ian Stevenson, who was a huge past life researcher. And Doxy is asking, Martin, have you, in your work, ever found a correlation with people's past lives and birthmarks they might carry in this life?
Yes. Sometimes they were injured in another past life, and they carry that. Like I said before, somehow everything's connected, and that information, we have memory cells in our body. Everything is, every single cell within our body, it remembers sometimes, bringing not from DNA, but from other existences, other realities, or past lives. Really, there was a case where. That was beautiful. In this was a black man, really, and had this right his underarm, like that birthmark, like spread it, And sure enough, in a past life, he was an Indian battling, the Blue Army. He was calling that, it was, the colonizers, really, somewhere in the Midwest. So the scene is like he's throwing, arrows, to the enemy, and somehow he got shot right here, exactly where the spot was.
Mm.
And guess what? Later in the session, when he walked up, and sure enough, he wants to see something, he's, because he felt like tickling in that area, and he's kind of like fading away, the birthmark.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Life's really weird. It can be really, really weird. I didn't have any moles when I was younger, born, okay? And by the time I was 7 or 8 years old, I developed a blue-black spot on my face. It's not a mole, it's a spot, okay? And I had it until my daughter was born. And when she was born, I'm not kidding you, my husband at the time didn't have a mole there either, and it jumped from my face to his face.
Wow.
And and it blew everybody in our families away. They were like looking for it on my face, couldn't help find it. I have billions of pictures of myself with that in my face. And now he has it to this day. It's still right there. Wow. And but it only happened when my daughter was born. And we can't figure out the significance of that at all. That would be a question I would ask the universe. It's like, what's up with that? How come? You know?
That's a way to ask. Yes, exactly.
Very cool. Yeah, that was just another birthmark. It's very interesting, the birthmark connection, because Dr. Ian Stevenson did a whole bunch of research with people who were remembering past lives and was able to trace them to the actual lifetime
Wow, that's
in a
amazing.
number of cases. If you ever are super interested in past lives, definitely look up his research, because it was extremely well verified and scientific.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So I do have a picture of your sister here, Martin.
All right.
I'm curious.
All right.
We have that, the picture of the backyard with apparent landing traces. So, do you
Yes.
want to talk about this whole case?
Okay. Yes, I want to talk about that case, but that's actually the second session. I want to talk about the
Oh,
first one. All right. So you guys
all right.
understand how chronologically was the developing this story. So that's way back in 2017 when she decides to do a session. Remember was March. Yes, it was March 1st, 2017, 18. All right, or whatever. And then I remember she was telling me because she became pregnant. Remember, she was 45-year old. She never had children before. All right, she was over 15 years of suffering from fibromyalgia. And it's a self-immune disease that it's in your muscles. It's like pain, constantly pain in your muscles
It's your immune system
joints.
attacking your nervous system and into your muscles. Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's an
joints and
autoimmune disorder. Yeah.
exactly. And there's no cure for it. It's just drugs they give it to you. So anyway, actually she already did two sessions, but not with me, with a colleague of mine. But then she goes like, you know what? She became healed after that, after like 3 years, doing adjusting, changings, and all that during those two sessions. But then she became pregnant, and it was like, you know what? I'm gonna do a session now with you. I was like, okay, why? Because I want to make sure my baby's okay.
Mhm.
Because for being 45-year-old, all the medical procedures like it's a high risk, you know. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So she was actually in her 8th week of pregnancy when she decided to do the session. And sure enough, that's how she started. Could you pull up the map, please, Preston, so people know exactly where it was happening? Well,
Yeah.
she was exploring this past life
Oh,
it's called Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan it's a country in below Russia and by
Yeah.
the
right
Black
here. I have it
Sea.
right here.
Thank you. Yes, right there. Yes, can you guys see it? You see the Black
Azerbaijan.
Sea?
Okay.
Yeah, and there's
In
Georgia, and
Azerbaijan.
next to is Azerbaijan, and
Yeah.
below is Iran, and all those, kind of like a
Yeah.
upper Middle West,
Yeah.
Middle East. And sure enough, she was experiencing a past life where she was a child. She was 9 year old, right? And she's like, the first thing she told me, she's like in this yes, thank you, in this stone bridge, and there's like this river flowing to this pond, and
Hmm.
and then she started describing that a carriage with horses is approaching, and this guy comes out of the carriage, and he goes like, "Oh, that's my father," and tells him by the name, describes everything, and he goes like, "Okay, my father wants to take me to the magicians and teachers." And I go, "Yeah, but go ahead." And he goes like, "Oh, I don't want to go. I'm talking to a child." She changed her voice for a child. And he goes, "Oh, no, I'm okay. I just want to be hanging out in here, blah blah blah." And I got, "Don't worry."
Is this your sister that you're
Yeah,
talking about?
that's my
Oh, okay.
sister. Yes, that's my
Okay.
sister. Yes, right there.
All right.
And I forgot to mention this background because this is very interesting, Preston and Dolly. She was an active member of the Jehovah Witness
Oh,
religion.
wow.
Oh, all
All
right.
right, so
Yeah.
remember, she had that belief system of religious. She was one of those ladies that knocks on your door and bring the Bible and preach
Yeah.
the word of God.
Watchtower. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, the watchtower. So remember, keep that in mind. All right.
Good to
Yeah.
know.
All right. So sure enough, she was taken to this place. She started describing it as a temple, right? and with steps and all that. Remember, she's a child. She looks everything huge and big. And when we start, when these teachers, she started describing this like a bunch of teachers on top of the steps, and they're wearing like he goes like they have these robes with number symbols and planets, and that's how our conversation start. I go like, hey, can you tell them we just out of curiosity, who are you guys? Who what are you guys doing? And that's how the dialogue started. And she goes like every time she replies, he goes like, he said this, he says that, and that's how he introduced himself as a Dermilac. And he goes like, oh, we are very happy. That's how he starts. We are happy to have you one more time here. And he goes like, but please, before we start our conversation, please sit down comfortable.
Mhm.
And I go like, because I was on my knees. Somehow, my sister during the protocol of hypnosis, she went in under hypnosis way before. That's how connected she was because she was practicing meditation. So I wasn't prepared. I was like holding my my voice recorder because I always use two devices. So I wasn't ready yet. So I was on my knees because I was playing the singing bowls and doing the protocol, and she was going to it. She was already experienced it. So I'm on my knees, and she goes like, okay, so sit down comfortably because they are watching you. She's experienced in the 12th century. All right, I'm sorry, 13th century in Azerbaijan. That's how we find out later on in the session. So see, there's no time they could communicate. Either in their we consider the past. No, they could really handle or tap into different dimensions at the same time. So anyway, that's how our conversation starts, and then he started delivering this information, who that knew or this soul was on her womb. That was very revealing because he started telling us about personal information from her, from me, and then he started laying this other message that, please, can you pull the image, the first image, Preston, please, because I want to read them exactly. I don't want to distort it or add it more.
Okay. The first, let me see if I can find that.
Number one.
And of course, during the session,
It's after the map.
yes, after the map. Yes, exactly. That's the number one. Yeah. Okay. Can you help me out to read?
Yeah.
There's, the C letter is from my sister Carmen.
Can I read it?
Yes, please,
Okay.
Dolly.
It says, there they are. They have been waiting for this for a while. They tell me to explain to you who are
And then
they.
that-
And then
that's-
she says,
And
who are they?
M, Martin.
DM, it's me,
Yeah.
exactly. Can you read it, Preston,
Yeah.
please? So you
Okay.
can do the dynamic, please.
Yeah, M, Martin. Who are they? Okay, then C,
And
would be
there's
you,
Dolly.
Dolly.
Oh, she's a guide, but they are, in fact, the force.
You know what? Sorry, guys. This is the second session. It's actually the other one, the other slides. Really, this is the second session.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, can you? Yeah,
oh, okay.
exactly. Yeah, right there. Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
And go back.
So sorry. This is
Okay.
the right one. Here we go.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
All right.
You ready?
All right,
See-
you ready, Dolly? Yes. C
Yeah.
is coming. Yeah.
He said at the rising of the Ottoman Empire, but you shouldn't worry because they don't belong to this world. They came to build this temple with a mission to this world,
Okay, Preston.
And what is the mission?
That's my
to
question.
set the future life. Yes, he said that. This is a mothership.
And Martin asks, where are you coming from?
He said, over the clouds between Saturn and Jupiter, where they are setting up their mission.
And Martin asks, are you living in a spaceship or a moon?
He said that they do not ask. It doesn't matter.
And
Preston?
Martin says, Dermilac, are you coming from another dimension?
He said that he's in, wow, it's right
Another
there.
dimension.
They're in another dimension. Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Next slide. Yes.
All
My
right.
question.
Martin says, ask Dermilac, is there any specific place in the universe or constellation that they are coming from?
He said that they had always been here on Earth, and in every generation they had contact people so humanity's path doesn't change course. He said we must build bridges because the day is coming, he said, we should irradiate more love between the because the day is getting closer.
And Martin asks, what day are you referring to?
He said the hidden snakes are coming out to damage the earth, the reptilians. It's time to protect the earth.
And Martin asks, what else do you suggest or a recommendation so people can wake up?
He said in that we all should be united to help people. No one is more, no one is less. The galaxies are like people. We should find a way to unify.
And keep going, Dolly.
Yeah.
He said the world is sick in this moment, but in that same way is going to get healed. But we will make it a protection network, and that's why we're sent here. We were sent here not to forget, but to heal the planet. And then, yes, strong changes are coming in the atmosphere, extreme weather, because changes within humanity beings is taking place, and it's like a painful birth. We are entering in a shift of dimension. He said we are organisms exchanging energy to grow anywhere we are, and they are out there protecting this change. We can't interfere any longer because everything is a learning process for the world. We cannot change everything fast because it wouldn't be as God's plan and the creator's plan and the universe
Council.
Okay. He's telling you this, and he will tell others just as you are here listening. He is talking to others too that are coming in their way, the ones who evolve as well.
Who are these evolved ones?
They're just getting born.
Are the ones who Dolores Cannon referred to as waves of volunteers? So they will be fourth or fifth wave?
He says they are the last wave, and I have one coming. She expresses it with surprise.
That was very surprising right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
He says that there are more than 200,000 there that were seeded over since Earth was created. He says that the guardians were afraid of the star passed off.
That's a
Free
weird
will
word.
wasn't good on Earth, but it's part of the cosmic plan.
Can you repeat that name? Is it a kind of race?
Yes.
Good luck, Ellie.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it mean in our language?
He said, don't ask. It is unnecessary languages. Sometimes helps and sometimes makes
Make confusion.
confusion. Yes.
All right. So, of course, see, that was the main message about that build bridges. The day is coming. I was like, what day are you referring to? So that was information. That my assumption later on in this second session. That was what we went through the pandemic, really.
All right.
Wow.
Should I pull up a picture of the being?
Yeah, can you please? Is that more like human looking? You know.
I remember the Dermalac, right?
Like yes, please. And this illustration were done by Nicte Cortez, as a friend of mine, and then she's a very young, talented artist. So she was the one who helped us out to fill up the description. It's kind of very similar to it. That's what my sister remember. And of course, it's just the outfit was completely white, but the resemblance of the eyes, the long
I could be
hair.
related to this person. Yeah. Literally. That's wild. Wow.
Very unusual.
Oh my God. Wow. I have weird blue eyes too. That's funny. I don't know if y'all can see this or not, but
Yeah,
these are
we
my
can see
eyes.
it,
Okay.
yeah.
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 All
So,
right.
yeah, of course, like I said, it really took us like an hour for this dialogue. I had to synthesize, or what the message for humanity, because there were other messages, of course, as well for for myself, for my sister, and even for other people that we know of, because somehow he was telling about the encounter that we had with Sixto whales. You guys, if you guys remember my encounters or our camping with Sixto whales, the contactee from Peru, that later on we're gonna have him, right? Preston, in November, no, December, I believe. Yes, we're gonna have him in the show, right?
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, so and then was another hour talking to Source, explaining us about the encounter and other questions that my sister had, from family members, friends, and so on. So it was like a little more than 2 hours in the session. So
Right. So that must have had a profound effect on her.
of course, was remember she had no idea about this, and this information that she, that went through, to the session. And then like I said, that was in 2017, 18, I'm sorry. And then things happened between those, of those 3-4 years, because the last one was in 2021 in October 30th. Yes, it's very, only a few years really. So there were three events that I want to tell you guys before presenting this second session, because that's how she wanted to do another session. The
Yeah.
first one was like these weird events. I'll just lay them right here. Okay.
I just want to let you know, Martin, we're got like 15 minutes
Oh,
left.
15 minutes left. Okay. All right. So it's gonna be very quick. Could you please pull the pictures from the marks on the backyard so I can explain that very quick?
Yeah, I was
Please.
hoping we would get to those.
Yeah. It was like a late fall, probably maybe around this time, October, November. And she calls me up right away. He was like, go out, because we live from like 6-7 miles from each other to the South Shore in Long
That
Island.
one. Yeah.
Yes. And she was like, she was in the kitchen and she used to have a cat. And she's like washing the dishes and the cat is on the window. And it's almost getting dark, 7:30, 7, between 7, 8, something like that. And she saw this light coming through the house. She rushed to see the window and she saw this, object, very bright, for like 2 seconds, took off immediately, But you see can you guys see the rectangle? The grass was kind of like a dry, and later she explained it during the winter time, the snow that was falling over, it was melting, and the perimeter was like, the normal snow was building up, but in that exact perimeter, I kind of like imagine it, it was
Mhm.
almost like 14, 15 feet wide by
Mhm.
8 foot, width, so kind of like, that happened. And then that was one. The next one was a dream. This is a very wild dream. She was dreaming in the middle of the night where these spheres coming into the bedroom, remember
Mhm.
the baby's only like barely a year old. It's like 10 months old or something like that, 10, 11. And then she kind of like, she woke up in the middle of the night. She tried to, to wake up, my in-law. He passed out, he wasn't able to wake up. Yes, thank you. And then and she immediately, the her mother responds to protect the baby, because she saw these spheres coming into, to the bedroom. And she takes the baby, and sure enough, when she turns around, she saw this kind of being like a squid, very large. She described it like probably like 5-6 foot longer, floating, So she took the baby. She's like, walking backwards, until she hits, the wall, and the being coming approaching like this, with the tentacles, kind of like a tentacles. And she goes like, "What do you want from us?" And she closes her eyes, with being afraid that you're, holding the baby. And the next thing, she opens the eyes, she's laying back on the bed again, like waking up. It kind of like, was it a dream or a nightmare? Or what was it?
Wow.
So that was the second one. And the third one, it was like, the baby had a little accident. Can you pull that image, please, Preston?
Yeah. Yeah. Give
Yeah,
me
right
one
there. So
second.
you see this draw, and then the baby was like kind of like a play. She was like, she was really walking, she was like having his first steps and all that. Yeah. That one, that he looks like a little more bigger now, but when that accident happened, she was in the almost like the middle of it, his height. So somehow he was start climbing, and because my sister was cooking or something, for like a couple of seconds he got distracted, and the whole thing just came over him, right? And she recalls like he didn't even cry, but he was stuck in underneath. Can you pull the next slide, please, where you can see her legs? Yes, that's the evidence where she was trying to pull the whole piece of furniture by herself, and she got, hurt. You can see her, black marks trying to do. But somehow she recalls like his hand was like, coming out of it, from the side, and she told me like she pulled him, he pulls him out of it, and the baby was intact. There was no injury whatsoever on him. So he was, surprised, and she wasn't able to explain how come he didn't get hurt. So those were the reasons she wanted to do this session. And sure enough, here's the second session. Please, can you put the other slides and
Oh.
the dialogue that happens?
All right. Give me 1 second because it's going to keep going now.
We got only 6 minutes.
Uh-oh. I don't think we're going to be able to do it because there's okay, this was Bhutan, that map.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now
then right after it. Yeah.
Yeah, Bhutan is a country next to Nepal, which is the Mount Everest. And that was 12th century. Again, she's a child again. She's like between 7 and 8. And here's the dialogue that started right there. Can you guys please help me out? Yes.
There they are. They have been waiting for this for a while. They tell me to explain to you.
Who are they?
She is a guide, but they are in the forest, and I am riding. I am with them. There are 4 of them.
Do you know who they are?
One is Dermalak.
Dermalak.
Yeah. Another says that the Oxalek.
Oshak.
Oshlik.
Oshak. Yes.
Very good. And the others?
She is the guide. She says that I have known her since before Tammy.
Very well. Tammy is her name. Is she your guide?
Not only mine, it belongs to many and all of those trees.
Okay, so it's Dermalak. I'm not going to be able to say that.
Oshak.
Oshak.
Uh-huh.
Tammy and the other one?
Rock.
Next slide, please. Thank you.
We are inside of a tree, but it looks like a cave. Very beautiful.
What else do you see? What else do you perceive?
I am inside of a pyramid, and under me there is water.
Okay, is there water?
It is water like green color, turquoise. I'm sitting in the middle.
Very well, you are in the middle. And what is around you then?
The 4 of them.
Okay, and what are they doing?
Timi is holding my head. Dermalak is in a white suit. He has a long white beard, and he emits a lot of light.
What else happens?
Oxlack is
Oxlack.
big. Oxlack. Okay. I'm saying it with a Swedish accent. Sorry. It's big green. It looks like a tree, but at the same time, you see it like a reptile or an amphibian, but it has a kind of face. Rock has his face as a red bird.
Does Rock have the face of a red bird?
Yes, but I don't know why half of the cave is illuminated and the other part is not. He says there are many children, many new souls living on earth. Oh my God. He says that there are germinating and preparing because a change is coming. Very, very, very big. He says that the earth is already tired, but they come to inject that green light. It is renewal on earth. He says that they only come to give energy because they cannot intervene, only to give us strength.
And those that are germinating are new souls or something else?
They are new souls, he says.
When we talk about new souls, we are talking about who have never before lived on the planet. Is their first time, or Rec is saying that right now. Am I right about that?
Yeah, Rock
Right
is
now,
saying that. Yeah, right now, this symbolizes the councils. Each one represents the forces of the earth, but also the forces of the universe. Rak is red, Oxalak is green, Dermalak is in the white light, Tommy is in the earth. He says that they hold the meeting and everything now that happens on earth. They were sent by the council. The council sent them.
and are that council from Earth, the galaxy, or the system?
Dermalak says that they are the set of the councils of the earth and the galaxy federation, that many are receiving messages because we are the house of the envoys. We are a home because the earth is never going to be destroyed. It is only going to renew.
All right. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to have time for all of this,
Yeah,
Martin.
that's it. Yeah. So
So
please,
it goes on
yeah.
quite a bit, but I do want to show some of the pictures.
Yes, that's Oshalk. That looks like amphibian looking. It's got a different outfit, really, but she was able, for now, she's gonna fix that. But that the way it looks, pretty similar. So the
Wow.
next one, they say some of them come from Orion, and he mentioned about this parallel galaxy that's parallel to our own galaxy. That's Temi, and it looks like older, and it looks like younger. She described like she was like changing
She
constantly
was
her
a
face.
Marian, and she would be from the system of Delphi. The first one is from Delphi also. He's a water person. I've seen them. He's wearing
Wow,
clothes there, but I've seen them in the water.
Look
They
at that
exist.
face.
Yeah.
Wow.
awesome.
All right.
And then Rack,
Me, and then
Demi looks like human. She's from Earth. That's Dermilac. And the next one, the Rack there, which is it looks like a bird, like a cardinal.
Let's see.
Hey, right there,
Yeah.
yes. And they had this outfit. See the city jantra that she's wearing? That's exactly what was wearing in that kind of like outfit. And numbers too. There's like a 33 number, it's 7, and number 9, I guess.
Hmm.
So that's as she remembers, that being too,
very cool.
right?
Oh, those are good drawings. Very
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Very
yeah.
vivid.
Thanks to Nick Tay.
That's
All
totally
right.
cool.
So,
All right. Well, we have about 3 or 4 minutes left. So
all right.
I don't see any more questions really, but I do want to give a huge shout out to all the people who helped donate with their super chats. So thank you, Janice and Raul and Namaste. Thank you so much. Namaste, namaste. Terry, thank you so much. And Doxy, you guys, this is so awesome. I mean, I really, really appreciate your support. It's helping to make our shows much better. I did get a new computer, thanks in part to all of these wonderful donations. So I'm not freezing up anymore, and hopefully the actual picture quality is much better.
Yes.
So here is a question from Doxy. I don't know if have heard of HemiSync from Robert Monroe.
I haven't studied yet. I read some of it, but I guess you, Preston, you know a little more about it, right?
I know what hemisync is. You have to make sure that you're hearing it in the right frequency because, no offense to anybody, but somebody's changing the frequency on the platform that you're watching it. So you have to make sure if you do it, order it online, have it sent to your house, and listen to it from a CD. Do not listen to it online because they're changing its frequency. Don't. Okay? All
Yeah.
right.
It's kind of like forcing open a flower to bloom.
Right.
I mean, it does. I wouldn't even put it quite that way, but it is accelerating a natural process, and would probably be best done through meditation. But certainly, I think it's worth listening to so you can get that feeling, because what it does is give you this sort of vibratory state.
Yeah, it directs you the pure alpha is what it does.
Oh,
and it appeals to your theta as well.
I have my own protocol too. The same. I have my own recordings from singing bowls and that. Yes, it's
the singing bowls. I think I would recommend.
I love them the best.
They're more organic, really.
That's absolutely precisely.
Yeah.
Well, Martin, I want to give you a chance to talk about we have your links and information in the show notes. But if you'd like to give anyone information that you want to share.
Yeah, that will be pretty quick. It's quantumbalance.center. That's how you guys can find me out. My website is bilingual, it's Spanish and English, because I have from both communities. And that's how you guys can find me out to, for all what I do, workshops and the quantum healing hypnosis. And my network, social network is Facebook. You can find me as Martin Rivera, in Instagram as QHHT Martin Rivera.
Well, thank you, Martin.
Very cool.
Everybody, thank you very much for coming to see us on the Light Gate today. Martin, you're going to have to come again. Right? We're going to have to schedule you again.
I got more cases.
All right. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana at the United Public Radio Network at 107.7 FM and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 FM. We thank you all very much. We hope you all have a wonderful week. Do check out the October 14
eclipse.
I'm going to senior moment eclipse. It's going to be really, really cool. And look to the skies, everybody, and always be happy, be in joy, be at peace. Good night, everybody.
Bye.